There's a lot of buzz around electrification in new cars, and there's a number of ways that can be achieved. Hybrid cars are perhaps the most accessible of those. Take a regular petrol engine, add a small electric motor to help reduce load, and then feed that using energy harvested in stop-start traffic that might otherwise be wasted. Toyota is probably the master of the hybrid game, with a variety of models powered by what's known as a closed-loop hybrid system. But they're not the only brand doing so. The Kia you see behind me might look like a normal Sorento SUV, but this one is the newest addition to the range, and it is powered by a closed-loop hybrid. In what might be one of the most complex ranges of any family SUV in Australia, the Sorento is now available with a petrol V6, a diesel 4-cylinder, a 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid, and a 4-cylinder closed-loop hybrid. This new model bridges the gap between the normal petrol and diesel Sorento range and the flagship plug-in hybrid. Where the plug-in hybrid model has a claimed 68 kilometres of pure electric range before bringing the petrol engine in to assist, the hybrid uses either petrol or electric motivation in short bursts, depending on the driving conditions. Unlike the plug-in hybrid, which can be charged from a wall outlet, the hybrid can't be plugged in at all, charging up its smaller onboard battery from recovered energy or using the petrol motor like a generator. Where the petrol and diesel Sorento are available in 4 trim levels, the hybrid comes as the top spec GT line specification only. That means it's not cheap, starting at just under $67,000 for the front wheel drive hybrid, up to $69,750 plus on-road costs for this all-wheel drive variant. Other than that though, the Sorento hybrid aims to deliver all of the family functionality of a regular Sorento, just with smaller fuel bills attached. So let's see how it stacks up. There is a heap to cover off inside the Sorento. For starters, there's the design. The hybrid shares its interior with other members of the range, so that means you get this blocky centre stack, lots of metallic trim and heaps of storage. The seats are trimmed in quilted Napa leather, which is pretty plush, and the front seats come with heating and ventilation. The driver gets 14-way power adjustment and 2-position memory, and the steering wheel is heated too. The driver faces a colour head-up display and a 12.3-inch fully digital instrument cluster, which changes depending on your drive mode. This sits alongside a 10.25-inch infotainment screen loaded with navigation, digital radio, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But connection requires plugging in. There's no wireless CarPlay yet. You get 12-speaker Bose audio, and Kia has incorporated an in-car intercom, so you can broadcast messages to the back seat instead of having to yell. Beneath the screen there's buttons for the dual zone climate control system, and then beneath that there's a lidded bin which houses 3 USB-A ports and a wireless charge pad. The centre console carries the rotary gear selector and cup holders, plus there's a lidded armrest. Personally, I like the cool ambient lighting details Kia has included, but I'm not a huge fan of some of the instrument graphics, like the Eco display and its alarm clock typeface, which just looks a bit old-fashioned. Still, with heaps of included equipment and a nicely functional user interface, the driver and co-driver should be pretty happy here. Into the second row, and the first thing you notice is how much space there is back here. That's because of this sliding second row, which means you can stretch out all the way back or slide forward a little to make more space for passengers in the third row. Again, you get the same quilted Napa leather seats, the outboard rear seats are heated, and the windows come with these blinds built in. There's air vents in the back of the center console, and there's another 3 USB ports, one in the console and one on the side of each front seat, making them easier to access. The doors have built-in cup holders, there's a fold-down armrest in the middle, and you can recline the backrest, making for a pretty comfy place to take a longer trip. Access to the third row is really easy. There's 2 one-touch buttons, here and here. Press them, and the seat will fold and slide forward, and you can easily jump into the third row. It's not a badly proportioned space back here, but that said, it's not as roomy as the first 2 rows. Passengers still get quilted seat trim, but no seat heating this time. Amenities include air vents and a separate booster fan, plus a USB port on each side. These third row seats have Isofix child seat mounts too, to go with the two in the second row. The big ticket item that's missing, however, is curtain airbag coverage in the third row. Behind the Sorento's powered tailgate, you'll find this much space with the third row up. That's 179 litres and just enough for a couple of backpacks or shopping bags. Normally there's a storage space under the floor, but in the hybrid model, that's where the 12-volt battery lives, meaning storage space is reduced, and as a result, the cargo blind has to live on top of the floor, not under it. If you're wondering, the hybrid battery with a 1 kilowatt-hour capacity lives under the second row of seats. You can fold away the third row seats via these straps and expand the cargo space to 608 litres, which is a bit more like what you'd need for a big family shop, karting prams, or a weekend away. If you need to maximise space for bigger items, you can use these buttons to fold the second row and unlock 1,996 litres of space all up. In each case, the boot of the Sorento hybrid is just a touch bigger than that of the plug-in hybrid, but a little bit smaller than either the petrol or diesel Sorento. Looking at hybrid cars, there's usually a lot of numbers to decipher. In this case, the Sorento hybrid claims 44 kilowatts and 264 newton meters from its electric motor, and 132 kilowatts and 265 newton meters from the 1.6 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. That's the same petrol engine as the Sorento plug-in, but the electric motor is just a little less powerful. Combined, Kia rates maximum outputs at 169 kilowatts and 350 newton meters. That's not too far off the 184 kilowatt combined claim of a Toyota Kluger hybrid, although Toyota doesn't quote combined torque. It's also down just a little on the 200 kilowatt V6 Sorento, but beats that engine's 332 newton meters of torque. Perhaps the most important figure for a hybrid though is its claimed fuel consumption, and in this all-wheel drive Sorento hybrid, the claimed consumption is 5.8 litres per 100 Ks. That's a near bang-on match for the Toyota Kluger hybrid's 5.6 litre claim. In the real world, the Sorento hybrid hasn't quite lived up to its claim, and at the moment I'm sitting on 7.4 litres per 100 Ks, which is still pretty decent. Now I'm going to mention Toyota hybrids a lot here because, let's face it, it's the system that people are most familiar with. We'll have all been in a Toyota hybrid, Camry, Corolla, RAV4, Kluger, as a work car, as a taxi, or as a rideshare car. Kia's system is a little bit different, however, where Toyota tends to use a bigger petrol engine and a more powerful electric motor to help it along. Kia's system uses the electric side of things a lot less and the petrol a lot more. This means, for instance, it'll always start out in electric mode, but it'll revert to the petrol engine really early on, usually between 10 and 20 Ks an hour. In a Kluger, you're probably going to get that changeover at 30 or 40 Ks an hour. There is still a lot of electric assistance though, like it's always running in the background, it's always helping. If you're at freeway speeds, it'll shut down the petrol engine and just go full EV for minutes at a time. This means that at the end of the day, consumption stays low. And while the two systems are philosophically different, they kind of get the same end result. Another difference between the two is that Toyota doesn't physically connect the rear axle to the engine, but in the Sorento, it does. It still operates like a normal all-wheel drive system. Does it make any difference? Not really. In this car, you get a 6-speed auto and you still feel some of the gear changes. In the Kluger, you get a CVT, you don't notice them so much. Like I say, these are all little step changes, but at the end of the day, you get the same result. You may notice that if you were to drive this car back to back with either the V6 or the diesel, it doesn't quite have the same urge when you put your foot down. Around town, that makes minimal difference. You kind of just glide around and everything is fine. But if you did want that big power or you had a need for towing or overtaking, I reckon you'd probably be better off with the diesel. Other than that though, this thing really feels comfortable and quiet around town. It has locally tuned suspension like a lot of Kia vehicles, and that means it deals really well with poorly maintained streets, speed humps, little bumps and dips, and it feels quite settled on the freeway. The one difference that the hybrid models in the Sorento line have compared to the petrol or diesel GT lines are their wheels. This car rolls on 19-inch alloys, and normally you get a set of 20-inch alloys under the combustion cars. It makes things maybe just a little bit softer and squishier under the tyres. Again, not a dramatic difference, but just enough that this is probably the pick for comfort. On the hybrid side of things, there's no special user input required. You just jump in, press the start button, put it in drive, and away you go. The car works out what it needs to do in terms of powertrain. If you're the owner, I reckon it'll probably be maybe a week of hybrid novelty. You'll be monitoring what it does and how it behaves. After that though, it'll all just become really normal and you'll drive it like you would any traditional car. The package itself is a pretty impressive one. The Sorento was Drive's 2021 Car of the Year, and with the new hybrid variant, it continues everything that made it good in the first place. Really comfortable, really well equipped, really tech laden, but now it's also really frugal on top. Now that we've had a look through the new Kia Sorento Hybrid, be sure to let us know what you think. Will this be the car to erode Toyota's hybrid supremacy? I reckon it could be, but right now supply is severely constrained, and Kia says they're only able to get their hands on around 20 cars per month for Australia, although that should improve over time. It does deliver the kind of fuel savings you'd expect. For something as big as this to return under 10 litres per 100 k's around town, that's pretty remarkable, and this comes in a fair way under. Something else that's pretty remarkable, a lot of you haven't subscribed. Don't miss out on the great review videos from the entire Drive team. Subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss out. If you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up or let us know in the comments what you'd like to see next time. I've got a full review of this car, plus you can find hundreds more at Drive.com.au. I hope to see you there.